Welcome back. Today we are going to have a kind of help, an extra help for everyone who's beginning now, who is returning, who's trying to understand. A special session, a pause, simplification, an explanation. So stay with us. We are on a journey. When you go back to the first video, it's a journey of time traveling and globetrotting. And in the beginning, probably no one really understood. And as we have journeyed around the globe, through time, it's becoming clearer. Slowly, the dust is settling. People are getting smarter and they're understanding. Eureka! I'm starting to get it. What is TARIQ doing? What is his proposal? Where is he getting to? So, we pause and we have a better look at what we are doing. First, time traveling. Most people, they're living in what is called a personal time. Okay, this is the most simplest form. I get up, okay, go to the office, and then come back, stop at the supermarket, go back home and watch TV. Okay, this is the general personal time life of most people. It's not the ideal way of living, but it is what has happened. And everybody who's watching has to understand. You're not a robot. You're not this or that. You're a little bit of everything. You're not Eastern or Western or Northern or Southern. You're in a place by accident. But in reality, if you become a time traveler and if you become a globetrotter, you can be anything you want to. You don't have to restrict yourself to a certain culture, to a certain time, and 20, 30 years go by. The whole idea was I spent all my life around the world looking at people throwing away 20 to 30 years of their life. You study at school, you watch the blackboard, then you screen, you watch the TV screen, and life is gone. You have not participated in time traveling or globetrotting or learning or discovering. You've just worked and worked. And you think that you have been schooled, but the schooling that people have received is to be programmed to go to work, 9 to 5. They have not been educated. They have not been liberated so that they can observe and question and connect the dots and get it and understand things. So the idea is, first of all, traveling through time and understanding the windows of time. So first we will pause a little bit and talk about this. Personal time, okay. So you just blitzed and 20, 30 years go by, you don't remember anything. You've thrown your life away. But you begin with what I have suggested to everyone. Have 45-minute windows. Start with 3 and 4, and then you can increase them to 6 to 8 time windows of 45 minutes. And you can spend some of the windows on working, some of the windows on organizing your home, organizing yourself, studying for the future, acquiring competencies, thinking, relaxing, reviewing, correcting. So each of these 45 minute windows could be very useful to helping you live a little bit more. It's like the saying, what's the point of living 1,001 nights and days the same? You've just lived one night and one day. It's just every day the same. The wonderful thing would be living 1,001 nights and days different, with different experiences and different learning and different ideas and different conversations and different discoveries. So either people are satisfied with their bubble, or they want to begin a journey of discovery, a journey of adventure, a journey of learning, and a journey of becoming smarter and a better person. And it's very difficult if you live in your bubble with your family, with your job, coming home. It's the same thing. You're stuck in routine. You're stuck doing the same thing and you stay the same person. So it's like a spell. You're stuck for 20, 30 years. And what happens is that in this form, 20, 30 years go by in minutes. And you stop one day and look at yourself and say, wow, 20, 30 years have gone by. I basically did the same thing. I'm getting old really quickly. And I have no memories. I'm just like everybody else. I'm a part of a herd. So personal time is one kind of time. And then we have cultural time. What's that? If you're from Western Europe, it's maybe 200 years. Everything begins with, we conquered the world, okay? Our navies invaded other countries. And if you're American, it's 100 years. We won the Civil War and then we started developing factories. 100 years, it's very little. Even if you come from an older civilization, let's say Africa, they have no memory. The Ethiopians remember King Solomon and Queen of Sheba, and the Egyptians, it was a different script. It was deciphered very little time ago. There's nothing that's left. They don't really understand a lot about 5,000-10,000 years ago. The pyramids are there, but no one really connects the people who are living there today to the pyramids. What's it about? There are connections to astrology, but nobody has a clue. So their time zone is basically, we are Muslim, the Arabs conquered us about 1,000 years ago or 700 years ago, and that's it. It's complicated. Even for people living in India and China, whose civilizations are much older, 5,000 or 10,000 years, but they don't know about it. They've been schooled, their parents have been schooled for the last 50, 100 years. They follow the British curriculum. So they study to get a job. And they have been told that what they have is mythology. It's fantasy, it's not reality. So very few people have an idea of what happened in India 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Most of the Indian people have no clue about the ancient texts. The Chinese are in the same situation. And over the last 100 years, they have become communist. It's all about factories, production, competing with the West, and getting gold medals. And their ancient history has sort of disappeared. No one wants to talk about it. And there's a reason. There's a reason why the governments do not want to talk about history and time traveling. Let's talk about Europe. They don't want to talk a lot about history because as soon as you open the book of history, their history about death and destruction, their history is about murder and pillage. It's about piracy. We go back to 50 years, 1900 to 1950, First World War, Second World War, civil wars, the genocide, the Holocaust, it's horrors. And then you go back 200 years, it's colonialism, imperialism, slavery, massacring Indians and innocent people all over the world. American Indians, Aborigines, their lands were robbed and stolen. So people don't want to talk about that. They just say we conquered the world and we are the best and we are the greatest, but let's not talk more about it. The Chinese, they don't want to talk a lot about history because most of the history that happened in China was not really about the Chinese people who are here now. Many of their glorious empires were not very connected to what's going on with China today and to the people who are there today. They had a fantastic Tang dynasty from the 5th to the 8th century. They were Turkic people. So the Chinese are not very interested in talking about it. They had the Yuan dynasty from the 12th to 14th century. They were Mongols. Okay, no one wants to talk about that. The last dynasty, the communist regime, is very, because they were Manchurian. Manchurian are people like near to Mongolia and Japan. So it's all about the communist revolution and it's us. Let's go on. The Indians, they have suffered 500 years of colonial invasion from the Portuguese to the British and the Dutch and the French. And before that, they had 1,000 years of Islamic invasions. And then before that, they had 300-400 years of Hunnic invasions. So from the 5th century to the 10th century, it was Huns. From the 10th to the 17th, 18th century, Turkic Islamic tribes, including Mongol invasions to try to conquer India. And then the Europeans. So 1,500 years, their memory is gone. They don't remember about 2,000 years ago. And we have another problem in India. The north of India has very little knowledge or interest in the south and east of India, where we had wonderful civilizations, trading civilizations. As I have mentioned, it was in the east and the south of India where we had fantastic universities, the concept of yoga, meditation, the fantastic temples. And the people in the north of India who have dominated over the last 1,000-odd years basically are not part of this civilization. So there's a lot of problem in India. And this part of the Indian civilization basically moved to Southeast Asia and to Indonesia. So the Indonesians have much more in common to the Eastern Indians than the Western Indians to the Eastern Indians. The Western Indians are basically Indo-European. And they're competitive and it's war and they want to dominate. And the Eastern Indians are more interested in peace and prosperity and yoga and meditation. So they're like two different peoples. And the South is completely different. So basically, it's like, it's not my history, it's your history, it's not ours. So they have a problem with understanding that for around 5,000 years or more, India was from the western part of Iran to the eastern part of Indonesia. It was all Indian people. And then slowly with climatic change, they separated and divided, and they have lost the memory. It's a kind of amnesia. What I'm trying to do is recover people from this amnesia. So from personal time, you don't even remember about your grandparents. How terrible is that? You just remember I went to work and I got back to work and I watched the stupid programs that are on TV and the advertising, do this, buy that, and I spent 20, 30 years. Let's rediscover. And another thing that is very important is that there's so much bias and blind spots and racism that people don't understand. Time traveling is about our journey. Every person who lives on the planet. The people have become Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, Christian, Muslim. Let's say 2,000 years ago, There was no Christian, Muslim, communist, capitalist. They were people. And so we have to go back. And many people who are European came from Central Asia, from Eastern Europe, from the Western Asia. Many people who are Turkic, they originated from India and China. So, we all come from the same place, but we are not living in the same way. Some people are hating other people because they think that they're of different religions. But basically, the people who are living in the desert, it doesn't matter what religion you have. You have to survive. The real enemy, as I have shown, is the desert, desertification. The other real enemy is the melting of the ice caps, which is causing flooding. In the Caribbean, in Florida, in the southern part of South America, enormous flooding. In the northern part of Europe, around the Alps, when the glaciers melt, the central part of Europe is having floods. All of Pakistan and eastern India is underwater because the glaciers in the Himalayas are melting. So everybody is on the same globe. We have the same mother. You can say that your God is different, but really? Does anybody really know what God is? The light that comes from the sun, from the universe is the same. And people are a bit lighter or darker depending on how much light they have accessed over thousands of years. So when you begin to time travel, you move from your personal time, your day, to a cultural time. And then you join other cultures. And then you can have thousands of years of cultural time. The Europeans do not have to steal the Mediterranean West Asian culture and say it's ours. It's not yours. It's the Mediterranean culture. But if you globalize and consider yourself a human like everybody else, then you can say that it's part of our global culture. It's not mine. It's not my European culture. No, it's not. Greek, Roman culture came from West Asia. But if you are not racist and supremacist, then you can understand that culture came from this region and moved upwards. And so did civilization. So you can access the Roman Greek culture. In the same way you can access the culture of the Old Testament, which is from the Middle East, West Asia. So it's very strange. People call themselves Christians, but the Old Testament is about the Middle East. And today we know that these stories belong to people who copied the traditions of the Assyrians. The Epic of Gilgamesh, 5,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago. This is the basis of the Old Testament. And these people migrated and took their stories. Just like the 1001 Nights is all the stories of Africa, Asia, China, India. And they all got together when Scheherazade put them together. So she joined the 1001 stories from all over the world. And so what happens is that when we talk about the global south, these people have a kind of common culture from Morocco to Indonesia, from Africa to India, to Central Asia. They have a similar culture because this culture has been cooking around the global south for thousands and thousands of years. Anybody, the Japanese and the Europeans, can become a part of it. The people living in the Americas can be a part of it. And we can become a part of their culture and their history. The story of Machu Picchu, the story of the Mexican Central American pyramids, Atlantis. What is this about? It's also part of our culture. And all my life I have been interested in Lemuria, in Mu, in Atlantis, in global culture. In my home, we had a collection of Shakespeare, we had a collection of Aesop's fables, as well as Oriental books. So, the more memories you have, the younger you are. You can be fresh because memories keeps you alive. There's a saying, when you don't remember anything, it's basically because you're dead. And if nobody remembers you, you're completely dead. So as long as we have memories, we keep people alive. So if we have memories of the globe is alive, the global culture is alive. It's not about Indian culture, Chinese culture. Now it's global culture. Anybody can access it. But what we must not do is say it's mine. No. In fact, I mentioned that there is a very nice concept of India, that nobody says, I invented yoga, I invented the Ramayana, I invented the Rig Veda. No. It was presented to us to share with the world. So this kind of narcissism, egocentrism, we discovered this and we want this, and we have to eliminate, because this is the beginning of being a global citizen. So it was very important for me to just to stop a little bit and help people understand why time traveling is so important. Science fiction is for everybody. At the age of 10, I had a complete collection of science fiction. Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, etc. Edgar Rice Burroughs. And it's wonderful. I don't consider myself Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, whatever. I'm a citizen of the world, global culture, global knowledge. It's wonderful. It's infinite. Every day is a discovery. I wish I had 100 hours a day so I could learn more, enjoy more, read more, share more. Understand this journey that we are beginning and move from personal time to cultural time to historical time. Let's go back 10,000 years at least. And then appreciate geological time. What has happened over 10, 20,000 years? The poles are shifting. The steppes are becoming green. They were full of ice. This region was tropical. It's becoming desert. This is geological time. The whole part of the Middle East was covered in ice. Let's begin a journey of time traveling. Let's go back to the first videos and follow the sequence so we can understand better. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.